morning. Shall we do a high energy good afternoon? Good afternoon. Yeah, moderate, all right. Well, the great thing about doing presentations like this is you always get over-promoted in the introduction. I can course correct that later, but I'll take CMO of all the companies I've ever worked for. But what I would say is the favorite role I ever had was my time as president of the WFA from 2015 to 2019, and watching the WFA grow and do what it does so well in days like today fills me with immense pride and pleasure. So thank you for having me back on stage, because as it says in that BA seatbelt thing, everybody likes attention, don't they? Anyway, these days I'm described as blissfully semi-retired, and I spend a fair chunk of my time watching marketing, some of it consulting, but I also have the joy of hosting the WFA's Better Marketing podcast. And what's come up regularly is indeed this thorny issue of his CMO becoming the impossible job. So before I welcome up the panel, which I'm really looking forward to doing, let's have a little look at a film of some of the clips from this podcast.
Marketing isn't that easy. If it was, marketers could all be replaced with algorithms and we could all go home.
I think we saw a very big and very disappointing reaction from the corporate world, which was to start to think marketing was becoming something that could be replaced by machines and not done by human beings.
There's a lot of pressure on all CMOs, right? Because the world has changed. It's had such an enormous change on its axis. Just in the last couple of years, like the future isn't what it used to be. So the playbook that they've all sort of leaned into and read doesn't necessarily work now. And that's as much because of geopolitics, technology, global viruses, all that sort of stuff, consumer behavior, talent.
Now we are at the verge of being deluged by literally a tsunami of technologies. So you have got artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous driving vehicles, which by the way has got a huge impact on radio, blockchains, cryptocurrencies, and wearables, Internet of Things. When all these are coming in and each one of them have a significant potential to change people's lives and lifestyles, marketing has to evolve.
I think the most important thing is to have just passion for learning and actively engage in it, so that you can be as current and open and thoughtful as the world changes as you can be.
The consumer has become more conscious. So, and they're expecting brands not only to say the right things, but driven by transparency, also to do the right things. So no longer do they want brands to solve their issue, but also societal problems.
I remain unconvinced that most consumers really are driven by purpose most of the time, but it's so fucking worthy that, marketing has always been a bit pathetic. It's just, being pathetic in a modern way.
It looks to me like a lot of marketing involves stealing ideas from other people. This idea worked for them, or I saw this on YouTube, so let's do that. I think you could cast the net a bit more widely than that.
Advertising has stopped talking to individuals, it stopped talking to communities, and it thinks being global is an asset. I think it's wrong.
Advertising it's a hard business because, when we say it's an art, the client says it's a business. When we say it's a business, the client says it's an art. And so it's hard to win.
I think the most important thing for me, and perhaps I learned this very early on in my career, this notion that the brand manager is the general manager of the brand.
It's always a question of which comes first. Is it a brand or is it a product? And I think you can have a product, but if you don't have the right brand for that product, then it's going to be very hard to sell it because you need a story to sell that, right?
Making big changes to big things, that's what really moves the needle. And I think ruthlessly focusing on the few things where you can make a big difference, that's the biggest game changers for our teams.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. So I have Jane Wakely, to my left, Chief Consumer and Marketing Officer and Chief Growth Officer of PepsiCo. And also, well, pretty good, isn't it? But that kind of tells you what the problem with the Chief Marketing Officer role is. And also Deputy President of the WFA. Asmita Dubey, welcome. Current Global Marketer of the Year by the WFA. So.
Hello.
And Chief Digital and Marketing Officer. And also our last human being here, Jenny Roney, the Chief Experience Officer of Adweek. And we would have loved to have had Mark Ritson here in person, a very punchy marketing journalist. I'm sure you all read him, know him. But he lives in Tasmania. But what he has allowed us to do is to use AI to generate the Ritbot. So Ritbot, hello, how are you?
Hi, Mark.
What can I help you fuck up less today?
Yes, I should. He always comes with a health warning. That reminds me, we must show this. If it's going to come up, there it is. Characters, videos, AI generated. And we're not responsible for his swearing. So if you've got sensitive ears, I'm really sorry about that. But let's start by asking you for your responses to the video we were watching. Jane, I was really struck that you were an optimist amongst a bit of negativity.
Yeah, I stood out a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Look, I am an optimist. I think the CMO role is one of the most incredible roles available, but you'd perhaps expect that. But I think there are three things. Is it an impossible task? There are three things that if you use to guide you, it helps you focus on those big changes, big things. The first is, and we talked about this morning, the first is, are you a growth architect of your business?
Yep.
Is the performance of your function, your department, absolutely central to your business performance and what matters for business? That's number one. Number two would be, I think, a guiding light is to think about the yin-yang of the science of growth, the science of category growth, but you've got to combine it with the art and creativity of brand building. And it's funny, one of the speakers on the film said, it's if you say one, it's the other. You have to have both. Yeah. And actually, that is the craft of being a CMO, putting together the talent, the capabilities where that yin-yang comes together. And the third element I think about is human centricity. We talked it this morning. But at the end of the day, as a CMO, it is your job, it is your function's job to really be obsessed about the people you serve. Yeah. And at PepsiCo, that's the billions of people we reach every week. And if you use those three sort of principles to guide and not get too distracted by the latest fad or running after this, the short-term priorities, I think that doesn't make it an impossible task.
Wonderful. An optimist. And Asmita, your turn. Remaining optimistic too?
Super optimistic. I mean, if we look at it from the lens of brands, consumers, and technology. So we've been hearing since morning that technology is at a tipping point and its potential is profoundly impacting all walks of life, including marketing. Consumers are adopting these technologies for convenience. And then they have other expectations on value sensitivity, health and wellness, maybe inclusivity. I feel that brands are overall responding with unbounded creativity. And when I say brands, it's also brands and the CMO. And the CMO role, one of the roles is also entails the transformation of marketing. And in the transformation of marketing, I would put forward three ideas. Yeah? The first idea is continuous reinvention. Continuous reinvention, and at the same time, we have to perform while we transform. You spoke about growth. You have to be agile and at the same time scale. You have to strategize, simplify, but not be too simplistic. We have to build expertise and then integrate it faster in the organization. So that is continuous reinvention. The second idea for me is about a fresh reorientation. A fresh reorientation towards this collision of science, technology, and creativity. And you spoke a little bit to that idea as well. And when I say this fresh reorientation, we've been speaking about technology, let me go to science. There is a democratization of science that is happening. It is becoming a conversation topic because people can access it more. I will speak about beauty. In terms of beauty, people have more access to experts, dermatologists, and their own views. There is a blurring of lines between beauty, dermatology, procedures. There is cellular biology with DNA and microbiomes, and these can provide a level of personalization and efficacy that we did not know before. So we have to think about this fresh reorientation of how the three are going to collide together. And third idea is around a new reasoning to think and process on what is coming. What is coming with this AI in hyperdrive, you know? And what is coming is creativity and technology are coming closer together like never before. Automation is coming. So what does all of that mean? And to me, therefore, these are the day-to-day challenges and opportunities in the CMO job today, and they're fascinating.
Wonderful. And Jenny, from your perspective, obviously you have your own podcast, you've interviewed many a CMO, so what's your view?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm lucky because I think throughout my career I've had a front row seat to talking to incredible folks like you. And everybody in this room. And so through that, you know, frankly, first seat education around marketing, I've been able to sort of see trends among all CMOs. And I will say I'm a realistic optimist. I actually think CMOs are some of the most dynamic, creative, passionate, thoughtful, intelligent people, human beings in any given company. And I think that's a huge, huge thing that we need to acknowledge. I mean, and so I think, unfortunately, right now, there's a narrative about CMOs that is negative. And I don't think it's necessarily something that's out of CMOs' hands. I think, in fact, that narrative is very much in their hands. And I would encourage everybody to explore, you know, where are the areas where CMOs can regain that narrative, retell that narrative, and actually kind of take it back. Because I think a lot of CMOs talk about the external forces, right, that are actually beating down upon them in crafting that narrative for them, where in fact I think it really is in CMO's best interest to really kind of take back control of that. So that's what I'll put out there. We recently, at an event we had at Adweek a couple weeks ago, we had Anne Mukherjee there. She's the certainly many-time former CMO and most recently the CEO of Pernod Ricard, and she basically said to the room, transform or die as a CMO. So that's hard. I mean, there's no denying that being a CMO is a difficult job. Yeah. It's very hard. So this concept of transformation, and she said, by the way, don't use the word evolution, use the word transformation, because it doesn't just happen in little incremental, sometimes you have to make big changes and take a hard look at who you are, where you fit in the organization, why you matter, why your organization, you know, your marketing team matters, and you have to continually be selling that story and making that case to your CFO, certainly, in language that the CFO can understand, not in marketing speak, and make that case to your CEO. You know, her point, and this has been talked about by both of you, bottom line is CMOs have to own the growth agenda, and if they don't, they're going to cede it. So there's one of two options. You don't want to cede that to somebody else in the organization. The other piece is, I think HBR recently had a study that said, or survey that showed that 80% of CEOs see value in their CMOs, but 90% of CEOs don't trust their CMOs. Ooh. So that's something that I think as a marketer you need to acknowledge. You need to figure out, like, why is that the case within your organization? Take steps to fix that, you know, and that gets back to the narrative piece. And I think it's almost as if there's parallel path job for a CMO. You have to make sure you're continually telling your own story, your own narrative. By the way, I would say that starts with having those candid conversations at the outset whenever you're going to a new role. Talk frankly with the CEO. Talk frankly with the CFO if you can find that time for that conversation, because you need to know going into an organization that you're going to be respected, understood, and there's a space for your voice in that C-suite conversation. So sometimes it's good to acknowledge the forces that are against you and then work really hard to combat them.
Fantastic. And last but by no means least, let's see what the Ritbot thinks.
The CMO, the impossible job. It's like asking a penguin to perform Swan Lake, for fuck's sake. At 1 minute, you're deep in the bowels of data analytics, trying to make sense of the latest consumer trends. The next, you're in a board meeting, trying to explain to a bunch of suits why your brand needs a personality. and not just a bloody profit margin. And then there's the constantly shifting digital landscape. It's like trying to nail jelly to a wall just when you think you've got a grip on Facebook. Along comes Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and God knows what else, each with its own damn algorithm to figure out. It's enough to drive a saint to swearing. But here's the thing, despite the challenges, the headaches, and the occasional desire to throw your laptop out the window, it's a bloody brilliant job. It's where creativity meets strategy, where you can make a real difference. It's not just about selling products, it's about shaping perceptions and building relationships. So impossible, maybe, but as the saying goes, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
My word, he swears a lot less than his alter ego. So Jane,
Yeah.
been a lot of talk about how marketing can play a role in changing consumer behavior as we seek to get to net zero. Do you think that's a realistic challenge for marketing, and what can we do to help get there?
Yeah. Look, I think the net zero goal is going to take many, many players in the end-to-end value chain, governments, regulators. But I really liked, where's Solitaire? She's still, hello, Solitaire. You did a fantastic job this morning. I loved it. And honestly, I thought her call to action was spot on. We have to play our part. And what is our part? We know from the recent Kantar study, you've all seen it, it was shared at the WFA last year, that the value action gap, that is real.
Yeah.
We've just done a repeat of that study that really gets into subcat performance to understand. The good news is some subcategories are, that is closing. And it shows it is possible. But it's only possible if we truly put our full marketing selves to it. The science of growth, the art and creativity of brand building. Those two need to come together. We need to overcome barriers, create new benefits. And look, I think this is why I think it's a super exciting time to be a CMO, because your job is not just to grow your brand. It is actually to lead and shape the future, to lead and shape the growth of your category, to create new categories. And I think that's where design, innovation, creativity can come in. And I was thinking about some examples, but I just want to share one with you, which is so simple. But Gatorade. Who uses Gatorade for hydration in the room? Anyone? I'm thinking, given the market share, there should be a few. Okay, yeah, a few. Gatorade, fantastic product, very focused on hydration for athletes. But for some, the barrier of using single-use plastic, whether it's rPET or recyclable, is there, right? And actually, one of the fastest growing parts of our category is actually in equipment, the GX bottle. Now, why is the GX bottle, frankly, enormous already? It's the fastest selling water bottle in the United States. Actually, it's because it's not just a water bottle. It offers an entire system of personal hydration. Powders, tablets, a new way of getting the brand's benefits, but in an even more personalized, customized manner. You can personalize the equipment, you can personalize the product. Now, that to me is a great example of exactly what Solitaire was talking. And I think as marketeers, as innovators, as designers, we've got to set our sights on much higher plane than just building our brands. We've got to lead and shape the categories of the future that remove some of those trade-offs that we currently all have to make as consumers today. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
Fantastic. So optimistic again. Wonderful. And Asmita, let's try.
I actually like Jenny's realistic
Realistic optimism.
It's tough.
Yeah. Asmita, let's touch another thorny subject here, and it's AI, being talked about an awful lot. Yeah. Many saying that AI will be doing 80% of all of our work shortly. But how are you experiencing AI in the marketing function, beyond just cheap content? And not that you do any cheap content, by the way.
I will share with you what we are doing a little bit. Well, our motto, we believe that technology has the power to change our lives, and our motto is beauty for each, powered by beauty tech. So yes, we are augmenting marketing with some generative AI use cases, and these are across beauty tech services, a new generation of services, and I'm going to speak to that a bit. It is across content creation, not so cheap, but yeah, we are exploring content creation and how it enhances production, exploring also consumer care, because it augments the care agent for the right intent detection and the right information. And exploring search and media, there is a new search experience is taking shape, and beauty searches are getting a makeover too. So we are using generative AI. I'm going to take 2 examples. We are using generative AI to offer coaching for each. 70% of consumers, beauty consumers around the world, they feel overwhelmed by the amount of beauty choices available to them. So, they ask their friend, they search online, they watch a video, just to make sense of the number of products that are there on the shelf today. So, as a solution, what we are going to bring and launch is L'Oréal Paris Beauty Genius. L'Oréal Paris Beauty Genius is a personal AI beauty assistant, and it can be available 24/7 in our pockets because it's on the mobile phone. It uses a lot of technologies, so it uses generative AI, predictive AI, color vision, etc. And what it does is 3 things. It brings personalized diagnostic, so we can diagnose our skin or our hair with AI, or even look at a virtual try-on. It brings personalized product recommendation through product matching and curation and routines. And the third thing it does is personalized answers to questions that we may have on beauty, even intimate questions maybe on acne or hair loss. So all of this is brought in one. The second thing that we are doing, and the example I'm going to take, is to augment creativity. We have built a generative AI beauty content lab. So here's to the lab. And we call it CreaTech. So CreaTech, technology coming to creativity, is our safe space for experimentation. And I call it a safe space because it comes with guardrails and our values. And in the morning, you had heard that companies have to work with their values. So we have decided that we will not use AI-generated lifelike face, body, hair, or skin to enhance product benefits in our external communication. We can use it for many other use cases. So we are using it for imagining new codes of beauty, for enhancing production of product shots, for pioneering brand custom models. And we are doing that with more than 20 GenAI technologies, with tons of workshops. All in all, we have produced more than 1,000 beauty images today. And like the whole conversation through the morning, what we learned from these 1,000 images and from the CreaTech Lab is that the outputs that we see are a combination of man and machine. They are a combination of human creativity and GenAI technology and tools. And the second thing that we see is that, yes, we can scale production of content and product shots. So we can create high volume content at high speed and hopefully cheaper. And the third thing that we see is, probably for the first time, we can digitalize, our brand codes and cues through technology. And that is very powerful. So I think, and I tend to agree with there were so many debates since morning. I tend to agree with the fact that, no, the impact of generative AI will be substantial in the coming period, to the work that we do every day.
And I'm pretty sure the Ritbot will have some punchy views on AI. So, Ritbot.
Oh, for fuck's sake, right? Let's talk about AI. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you AI isn't a big deal. It's as big as a whale and just as hard to ignore. But this notion that 80% of marketing will be done with AI, that's like saying 80% of cooking will be done with a blender. It's a tool, not a bloody replacement for everything we do. Now, is AI having an impact on marketing? Absolutely. It's helping us crunch data faster than a kid crunches crisps. And that's invaluable in a world where data is thicker on the ground than pigeon shit in Trafalgar Square. It's helping us personalize content, automate processes, and make predictions. It's a game changer, no doubt about it. But here's the rub. AI is only as good as the data you feed it and the people who use it. It's not some magical marketing fairy that's going to sprinkle pixie dust on your business and make all your problems disappear. No. If you're using AI to churn out loads of cheap, personalized content, then you're missing the point entirely. AI isn't about doing more marketing. It's about doing better marketing. It's about using data to understand your customers, create better experiences, and drive growth. It's not a replacement for human creativity, insight, or strategy. It's a tool to help us do our jobs better, not a substitute for doing our jobs. So let's stop genuflecting at the altar of AI and start using it properly. Let's use it to enhance our marketing, not replace it. And let's remember that at the end of the day, marketing is about people, not algorithms. And until AI can replicate human emotion, intuition, and creativity, it's not going to be the marketing messiah some people are making it out to be. So let's keep our heads on straight and keep things in perspective, shall we?
Very good. Wise words. Yeah, Mark will enjoy knowing that you applauded his Ritbot. that was excellent.
Does it learn from that?
I think so. It's very disturbing to watch, though, isn't it?
I know, he has the odd pause.
Anyway, and Jenny, against this backdrop of culture wars, the bifurcation of politics, Bud Light, are we going to see the end of brand efforts to be purposeful or woke in the US? And shouldn't people be focusing on the 50% of the audience that they might piss off and drive growth? I mean, you'll have written a lot about this, I'm sure.
So, first of all, this is a first. I've never actually sat on a stage next to a bot before, so it's
None of us.
odd feeling engaging with him and clapping for him. You know, it is. Look, I mean, this goes back to what we were saying about being a CMO. You know, nothing applies more to a role than to the CMO. The concept of, you know, the only constant is change itself, right? So, and I mentioned the forces at play, and you know, CMOs, marketers are constantly having to make sure they have eyes on all of the inputs, right? And there's so much around culture that I think, especially in recent years, we've seen there be quite a focus on, you know, and rightly so, because obviously marketers they command reach, awareness, visibility, and, you know, there's a lot of influence, right, that marketers have against that backdrop. So, short answer to your question is, are we going to see the end of it? No. I'm sorry. Are we going to see it end? We're not going to see it go away. I think we're in a moment where people are sort of having to probably be more thoughtful and bring some more nuance and effort to thinking about this space. You know, I'll borrow a concept that the wonderful Dr. Marcus Collins shared earlier, which is that meaning ultimately is not something that marketers fully control. You know, that's something that at the end of the day, the recipient, the person on the receiving end of that message, that communication is going to, you know, sort of apply his or her or their meaning to that. And so I think being super cognizant of that, I mean, the CMO and the marketers are always the ones who, at the end of the day, they own the voice of the customer. That's always been the case. That's always will be the case. That's not going away. That commands a really deep level of responsibility. And so making sure you're tracking all the shifts and changes that's happening among individuals, among communities, within culture is super, super key. I think marketers are going to have to also acknowledge the fact that people do vote with their pocketbooks, right? They do make choices based on what they think a brand does or doesn't stand for. I don't think that's going to go away. So I think, you know, my perspective is the words that come to mind are making a choice is being committed. It has to be sustainable, and I don't mean the environmental use of the word sustainable, but something that can persist. So as a marketer, if you're going to, you know, if you're going to basically put a platform or a purpose out there, that's something that you have to fully support. And I think knowing the why behind it, obviously really doing that, that understanding and sort of the effort that goes into it in advance is going to be so, so key. sincerity. That's the last word I'll use. I think we all use that word authenticity an awful lot. It's overused, but my mind goes to the concept of sincerity because I think that's really, really key. But at the end of the day, marketers finally are tasked with driving business growth. I mean, we heard about that from Marcel Marcondes this morning. You know, that is the bottom line. So if you can, you know, again, it goes back to nuance. It is not easy, but threading that needle and sort of basically being able to say, this is, you know, understanding consumer needs, understanding what your target market needs, who your target market is, what they care about, delivering on that, while also obviously making sure that you're driving sales, because that's what marketing is for, ultimately, and sort of walking, you know, being able to tie it together in a meaningful, sincere, and sustainable way is, I think, what we're going to continue to see more of. And the one thing I'll say, I have heard anecdotally from some marketers and agencies that the time we're living in right now is having some impacts on creative big swings. And so, for example, I had a former brand side CMO, because at the end of the day, CMOs are creative people. As I said before, they're creative, they're passionate, they're strategic. They love telling stories and creating beautiful things and putting them out in the world. But I had somebody who was a former CMO on the brand side who then ended up going to agency side, say, I could no longer do any real creativity on the brand side. One anecdote, one example. Flip side, you know, have talked to a lot of agency CEOs who say, brands have us hamstrung. We can't do the big swings. We can't do the big creativity that we can do so well, that, you know, why we exist as agencies. So, you know, I think we're in an interesting moment, and it's a time of pause and thinking about that, you know, and will we see those big swings again? I think some marketers will do that. I think others will, you know, get caught up in culture battles, and I think that is something that obviously they need to be cognizant of.
Yeah. Now, for the Ripbot, I know this is one of Mark's personal favourite subjects. So, Ripbot, what about this one?
First off, the so-called woke marketing isn't going anywhere, despite the tumultuous political landscape and a few high-profile fuck-ups. Brands are increasingly realizing that their consumers are not just mindless drones buying shit they don't need. Now, does that mean every brand should be jumping on the woke bandwagon? Hell no. It's not about blindly following a trend. It's about understanding your audience, their values, and how your brand fits into that picture. If your brand's purpose feels as forced as a fart in a yoga class, then you're doing it wrong. As for the idea of alienating half your audience, bollocks. The key is not to avoid taking a stand for fear of offending someone, but to take a stand that resonates with your core audience. This whole back to basics argument is a cop-out. The basics of brand growth have always been about connecting with your audience. So, in the immortal words of the great philosopher Dolly Parton, figure out who you are, then do it on purpose. Like, if that means going woke, then so be it. If not, then don't force it. But don't hide behind the basics as an excuse for not evolving with your audience.
No. Thanks, Mark.
The bot is good.
Yeah, he's inadvertently making a brilliant case for AI replacing us all, isn't he? But never mind. Now, Ripbot, while you're on a roll, let's talk a little bit about this thing that marketeers always have, getting in a spin about the role of marketing. Is it dead? Is it taken seriously enough? What do you think?
Oh, bloody hell, not this again. The CMO title isn't dead. It's just misunderstood. We're like the black sheep of the corporate family. Everyone knows we're necessary, but nobody really gets what we do. The problem is too many marketers are happy to sit in their little silos, churning out pretty pictures and catchy slogans, while the rest of the business is focused on the real shit: profits, growth, shareholder value. It's like we're playing a game of football, and the marketers are off in the corner practicing their ballet moves. No wonder the rest of the team doesn't take us seriously. So What can we do about it? Well, it's not rocket science. We need to stop acting like the creative divas we're not and start behaving like the business leaders we should be. That means understanding the business, speaking the language of the boardroom, and demonstrating the value of marketing in terms that matter to the rest of the business. We need to get better at measuring and communicating the impact of our work. Not in terms of likes, shares, or impressions. Nobody gives a flying fuck about that. I'm talking about the impact on sales, profits, market share, the stuff that keeps the CEO awake at night, and we need to stop hiding behind jargon and bullshit. The more we obfuscate what we do with fancy terms and acronyms, the less likely we are to be taken seriously. So cut the crap and start talking straight. In short, we need to stop whining about not being understood and start proving our worth. Because if we don't, we might just find that your CMO title really is dead.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if you ever had a conversation with Mark. It sounds disturbingly like him, except he doesn't swear as much, and I'm loving all the pauses, because there's never a pause in what he says. But anyway, to kind of switch, Stefan touched on some interesting data this morning about this problem of attracting talent to marketing, with the perception that somehow or another it's more interesting to go to do other things. I mean, Jane, as Meet, I'd love your views on that. Are you having problems attracting talent? And if so, what are you doing about it?
I can start. I mean, well, at L'Oréal Group, we believe in the power of our 37 global brands. And in fact, if you look at, Mark was talking about business results and boardrooms, and every time we are in a financial meeting, we say we have 6 pillars of our success. And in the 6 pillars of those success, we put, of course, our R&I and innovation, the power of our 37 global brands, our digital and beauty tech leadership, our operational capacity, and the culture and people and who we are. So it is very much in the DNA of the company to innovate, but also to continuously build brands. We also invest and believe in investing in a virtuous spiral to keep building the brands. So in that sense, I feel that we have such mega brands like L'Oréal Paris, Lancôme, Garnier, Maybelline, NYX Professional Makeup, Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, that we tend to have a lot of young people who want to work with that. And beauty is such a engaging category, you know, so people want to come and engage with that category. So in that sense, we keep our fingers crossed, we upskill them a lot, we engage them a lot. We have programs like Brandstorm to work with, starters when they're still in college. Keeping our fingers crossed.
And Jane?
Yeah, look, I have to say, I've been at PepsiCo 2.5 years, and PepsiCo has incredible talent at every level, and we don't see an issue recruiting or retaining young talent. But I think there's a theme here, you know, that actually has come up throughout, which is how do we pitch what marketing is?
Yeah.
Because if we pitch marketing as a small m marketing, I think there's all sorts of challenges with that. If you pitch marketing, I mean, you make the ad, now those are all important component parts. But if you pitch marketing career is you're a growth architect of the business. Yeah. You make a serious business contribution through creativity, through the many aspects of innovation, communication, media that we bring together. I remember when I was first a graduate, you know, I remember that was how certain companies came over, the P&Gs, the Unilevers, the Marses of this world. And I think where marketing has lost its way a little bit is that, you know, there are companies who don't see marketing like that. They see it as small m marketing. Yeah. And I think as an industry, you've heard it from so many ways today, from Marcel this morning through to every one of these panelists has expressed it. Forget your job title in a way. Define what is your added value in the company and drive hard for it. Yeah. Drive hard for it, because then all of this debate goes away. And and I think in that context, if I think of the opportunities for young people, you know, when you can tell them you can be a general manager of one of the most incredible brands in the world, it's like, you know, wow, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think Mark was right. We've got to stop whinging, start shaping.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I add to that really quickly?
Yeah,
so I spent a lot of time on business school and college campuses, and so I do think it has to start at the college, university, even high school level. Like, I think the way marketing is being taught, I think industry could really partner with universities and professors and academics in this space, because the classrooms need the frontline practitioners to come in and really be sort of like the ambassadors for what the practice has become.
Yeah, that's true.
And help them redevelop the curricula, because I think that until that really happens at that core level, to your point, honestly, like students, and no fault of anybody's, but they may not realize how dramatic and awesome the job is and the practice is. And the joke is that, you know, and we all know this, I think, that back in the day you went to business school and you picked marketing because you thought it was going to be, frankly, the fun and less hard option. Finance, accounting, like all those other things. But at the end of the day, this has become the hardest job, which is such an irony, and yet it's the most rewarding, and it has the biggest opportunity to drive impact in any given organization, I would argue. So I just wanted to build on what you said there with that.
No, listen, wonderful point. I mean, it's data that surprises me, and whenever I'm kind of coaching young people, there's this issue of entry point of money, and actually the tech companies, the banks are paying much higher when you enter, but you can make a lot of money if you're very good at what you do. I'm sure you'd agree. Anyway, Ritbot, the last word on this must of course go to you.
Today, everyone with a Facebook account thinks they're a marketing guru. They slap a few hashtags on a post and call it a marketing strategy. I mean, it's like calling yourself a Michelin-starred chef because you can make toast without burning it. We're not facing a talent crisis. We're facing an identity crisis. We've let the tech bros, the buzzword spouters, and the growth hackers redefine what marketing is. It's time we took it back. Marketing isn't just about social media, SEO, or whatever godforsaken acronym is trending this week. It's about understanding the customer, creating value, and building strong brands. Well, it's a blend of art and science. It's a critical business function, not a bloody afterthought. So what do we need to do? We need to educate. We need to train the next generation of marketers in the fundamentals. Not just how to use the latest shiny tool, but how to think strategically, how to understand human behavior, and how to build and manage brands. And we, the experienced marketers, need to step up and reclaim our field. We need to stop letting the charlatans and the snake oil salesmen define what we do. We need to be proud of being marketers and not let anyone tell us our career has lost its luster. So to all the aspiring marketers out there, don't be disheartened. Marketing is as exciting, challenging, and important as it ever was. You just need to cut through the bullshit to see it.
I love the fact he always has the last word. It's great.
Fabulous stuff. So listen, in the spirit of better marketing, as we come to a close here, I always end the podcast asking for the one thing that you think people could do to do better marketing. Jane?
I'm going to go growth. Understand your growth algorithm of your business and focus on the one or two key drivers. That's it. It's that simple. Growth.
Fabulous. Asmita?
I would echo a lot of the discussion between Mark and Jane, what you've been saying. I think we need to develop a new generation of marketeers that are a combination of creativity and technology, a combination of math and magic, a combination of the left brain and right brain, and a combination of driving ROI and growth in the short term, but also building brand equity in the long term. So I think they have to do both.
Great. Jenny?
Spend time with your CFO, know the business. Know all those other parts of the business that, frankly, are not in your remit. because you need to be able to have those conversations with your CEO, your CFO, and your board that they actually hear and that resonate for them. That's how we can better marketing.
Fabulous. Well, listen, it's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time. A couple of other thanks, particularly we must thank Marina Petrova, who helped generate. Here she is. Marina.
Brilliant job.
No, seek her out if you can, because it's a brilliant job, and you did a Mark Ritson. He's almost better than the real one. Anyway, a couple of things. It would be a shame to not take the opportunity to point out that Mark gave his permission, so thanks for that, and also not to sell the podcast. You know, I get to interview these fabulous people, and my one thing for doing better marketing is a deadly simple one. It's be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. Thank you very much.